Hawaii's coral reefs stand as a testament to the natural beauty and ecological importance of these underwater rainforests. These reefs are not just beautiful, but also the foundation of a complex and fragile ecosystem. They face many threats, and one of the most preventable is damage from boat anchors. To counter these threats, the Malama Kai Foundation implemented Hawaii's famed day-use mooring buoy system to offer a sustainable way for boaters to enjoy the ocean without the need for anchoring.
The day-use mooring buoy program here was started because there were so many people that shared a common dream, a common purpose. And that common purpose was to reduce anchor damage to the coral reefs from people who love to be out there diving on those reefs.
It is not only a conservation initiative, but it's also a public use boating infrastructure. So it's this really unique mix of both public-private partnership and just people caring about the place that they visit.
Day-use mooring buoys are a great way to keep anchors off of the reef and protect the reef from anchor damage. So a lot of the coral reef conservation that's happening in Hawaii is focused on reef restoration, so restoring already damaged areas. But having day-use mooring buoys keeps our reefs protected from that damage happening in the first place.
The story of the day-use mooring buoy system is one of foresight and dedication. The need for protection from anchor damage was recognized as early as 1985, and in 1987, proof of concept testing began on Oahu and Kona.
One of the first things we discovered is that the substrate here in Hawaii was a lot different than it was in Florida, so a different technique had to be developed, and that's where Jeff and Terry Leisher and their father George Wilkins especially got to work and experimented to try and find ways to anchor the pins that would hold the mooring.
People would just drive up to the dive site in the boats and just throw their anchor over and not even pay attention to what was on the bottom. We asked him, what do you think that we could do to try to prevent anchor damage? And he came up with a solution after research.
By 1988, pilot mooring buoys were installed at Molokini, demonstrating their effectiveness. This led to lobbying efforts, including testimony at the Board of Land and Natural Resources in 1990, and the establishment of the Malama Kai Foundation.
A client who was rather famous, Jerry Garcia from the Grateful Dead, he wanted to do whatever he could to help us. He actually donated the first money that we received in order to buy buoys and hardware, but he also went to the public hearing to help convince the powers that be to give us the permit.
The program continued to grow with the adoption of the day-use mooring buoy program into the Hawaii Administrative Rules in 1995. Additional permits were granted in 2005 and in 2010, expanding the system to Maui, Oahu, and Kauai.
It took a lot of time and experimenting, and then from there, we were able to get permits and eventually go statewide.
Using a day-use mooring buoy is simple, but it's crucial to do it correctly to ensure both the reef's protection and the longevity of the infrastructure.
We try to ensure that these are well maintained. The state has put a few rules in place just to make sure smooth operation of the program.
Always start by visually assessing the buoy before use. Remember, use at your own risk. It's essential to use your vessel's lines to tie up to the buoy's tagline. And just like anchoring, use plenty of scope. Limit your use to 2.5 hours. Do not moor overnight. And no anchoring within 100 yards of a mooring buoy. It's equally important to know when not to use a mooring buoy.
When it comes to when not to use the mooring buoy, this really relates to boater common sense. So if it's foul weather, that's not the time to be tying up there. If you would worry about being at anchor at that location during those surface conditions, then that's not the time to use a day-use mooring buoy either. You also need to be looking at what you're tying up to and being sure that it is not only robust enough for your vessel, but also that the shallows aren't too close for your vessel. So it's really about each boater taking responsibility to make sure that that mooring is correct for them to use that day.
Finding day-use mooring buoys is easy. Online resources at malamakaifoundation.org and the DLNR website provide GPS locations to help you plan your trip and locate your desired mooring.
The mooring buoy program has been an important building block, an important infrastructure for an industry that really depends on the coral reefs. And it had that meaningful, direct connection.
This goes beyond simply infrastructure. This is a conservation program. The Day-Use Mooring Buoy Network is estimated to have protected some of Hawaii's most visited reefs from nearly 90,000 anchor drops annually. That's conservation at scale, and that's something we hope to do a lot more of. So there are a variety of ways that people can help the Day-Use Mooring Buoy program or support us. And one of the ways is to use your voice, to be able to lend your voice to support the public-private partnership between state agencies and this organization to be able to do this good work.
But it doesn't happen by magic. It takes a village, and whether it's the people in the village saying, hey, this mooring looks like it needs some maintenance, this is where it is, and we will fix it with our teams. Check the mooring, report if anything is wrong, scrub it while you're there, and please send a tax-deductible donation to Malama Kai Foundation for the Day-Use Mooring Program.
So we encourage all the boaters and people to use them and be aware of them, and hopefully spread the word about how important it is not to drop anchors.
The future of Hawaii's reefs depend on all of us. Continued reef protection relies on community support. By donating to Malama Kai Foundation, reporting any mooring buoy issues, and using the buoys safely and respectfully, you can help preserve Hawaii's reefs for generations to come. More smart and help us to protect paradise.